them whole. Therefore, you need to chop them up because the smaller the bones, the more flavor that's going to permeate into your soup or stew. The grip on the heavy, dense cleaver is the baseball bat grip, where you basically just grab the handle, therefore keeping your fingers and your thumb away from the blade because you have all that tremendous force. You have to make sure you keep your hand out of the way. First of all, I want to tell you, you take your cutting board and you flip it over, especially if it's a wood board, because each wood board has a beautiful galvanized surface on one side meant for cutting and julienning and mincing, a perfectly flat surface, and the other side is not refined. So therefore, when you're going to put big hack marks or dents into your board, you want to make sure you designate that bottom side, so turn that board over. Next, only raise the cleaver as thick as the bones are. Make sure your cleaver is sharp, obviously, and let it do the work. That's why it's heavy, because it does the work for you. You don't need to slam down on something that's only a quarter of an inch thick, because that increases the chance of safety risks. So we want to be very careful. Also, make sure you keep your stabilizing hand that you're pressing down the meat or fish on at least 8 inches away from the cleaver that's coming down in its motion. That will ensure safety. So remember, only bring the cleaver up as high as you need to cut through the thickness of the bones, and make sure that you keep your other hand completely out of the way. Let's begin. Now I have my fish cut up. I'm all ready to make my bouillabaisse, and we'll move to our next lesson. A sharpening steel is your final element in your knife set. First of all, let's talk about how we hold our knife when sharpening. We first, again, hold our 3 fingers underneath the handle, our thumb basically parallel to the blade with a slight downward angle, and our index finger on top for control and balance. My grip on the steel is as follows. This would be a normal baseball bat grip, as I call it. What I do is I bring my thumb around to where my other 4 fingers are. This is also known as a hook or false grip. Now there's an oval base that all steels have. What I want you to do is make sure that the long part of this base is facing towards your body. So in case I do miss, it goes into the steel base instead of obviously into my hand. These 2 safety precautions will ensure that you won't get cut. Now, my arm is bent away from my body. My steel is almost perpendicular with a slight angle. What I'm going to do is I'm going to utilize the motion of my wrist and not my shoulder. My shoulder stays fixed. I'm going to sharpen the knife from the heel to its tip, trying only to use the top half of the steel. Now, you alternate strokes on each side of the sharpening steel, utilizing an approximate 20-degree angle with the knife. If you do it correctly, you will not hear a clanging or a banging sound. It will be the nice gliding sound of an ice skate. So first start slow, obviously, all in the wrist, 20 degrees on each side. And then once you gain confidence, then obviously you can speed it up. But notice, I'm only using the top of the steel. I'm not even coming near the bottom of the steel. And that will ensure that you never get caught. And you really only need about 6 or 7 strokes. Let the knife blade do the work, not the power of your shoulder or your wrist. Those techniques combined will ensure that you have a safe and effective skill. Another variation for those who might be a little timid with that approach would be to have the actual point of the steel pointed into the board, and then you utilize a downward motion using your wrist at, again, another 20-degree angle. Just like that. Flexibility is another element that you should consider when purchasing knives. Certain knives you want them to be flexible and have some give to them, and other knives you want them to be very rigid without any give. For example, a boning knife. Boning knife you want some flexibility to because you are carving in and out of joints and cavities with proteins. Very important that it has some give, so it has some forgiveness to it. Slicing knife. Again, a lot of the times I will be slicing leg of lamb with the bone in, or carved roast turkey on the bone, or even a bone-in roast ham. Therefore, a good amount of flexibility is also a great idea, and it won't hinder your methods. Now, on the other hand, choosing a chef's knife, you want a rigid characteristic because you are cutting tough and firm products like onions and potatoes. Therefore, you don't want any give to the play at all. And the more rigidity we have, the better. Also, our final concern would be a paring knife. Paring knife, you want a rigid characteristic as well because you are paring and you are turning and you are peeling a lot of stiff and hard objects like potatoes and carrots. Therefore, you don't want a lot of flexibility, and rigidity is key. So keep those elements in mind when you're choosing your knife. Henckels make varieties of flexibility within their branding, so seek those out and make the right choice. In addition to the safety elements, the grips, and the opposite hand placement that we've covered so far in this video, there are other safety concerns that you should understand. I personally haven't cut myself in over a decade. I'm very proud of that fact. And that's because I'm a stickler and make sure that I pay strict attention to all the safety elements involved with cutting. Now, first of all, I want you to roll up your sleeve before you even start to handle a knife, because the knife handle and the blade can easily get caught or snag on the sleeve, and that can result in a deep cut. Next is never to grab a knife without looking at it first, because you never know which direction the blade is facing. Next, never cover a knife with an object like a towel or rag, because you never know what you're going to grab. Next is never to pick up or use a greasy knife, because it can easily slip out of your hands. Next is when you cut an object parallel to the board, never keep your hand behind, because you never know when the knife's going to come out the other side. Always keep your hand on top, and that will ensure that you never get cut. Never cut when you're distracted. Instead, first put the knife down, then tend to what's needed. Never try to do another task with the knife still in your hand. Never clean the knife with the blade facing your hand. Instead, turn the knife over and stroke it on the top and the bottom with your fingers. Never, under any circumstances, attempt to grab a falling knife. Instead, step back and let it fall. Henckels recommends that you do not use a dishwasher when washing your knives. Instead, wash by hand with soap and water. Also, never store your knives loosely in a drawer. You could accidentally cut yourself, and storing them loosely like this will damage the blades. There are 3 ways to properly store your knives. First, in a knife block set. Second, in a knife tray, which fits in your kitchen drawer. And third, on a magnetic rack that is attached to a wall. If properly stored and cared for, your Henckels knives will last a lifetime. Henckels makes several different types of knives, all of which have the identical exclusive construction methods, but differ in handle design and construction. Let's examine each of their 4 signature lines. First, we have the Professional S series. This knife is a traditional 3-rivet handle with a full tang and is a true classic. Second is the 4-star series. This knife comes with the molded polypropylene handle, which has a slight different feel and has the same classic shape as the Professional S. Third is the 5-star series. This knife again has the molded polypropylene handle, but also has the patented ergonomic handle design, which improves function, convenience, and safety. And finally, the Twin Select series, which has the same patented ergonomic handle design, and the handle is stainless steel, permanently bonded for seamless accuracy and no gaps. Before purchasing your set of knives, I advise that you sort of test drive the feel of each of the different Henckels series knives. Each one has a distinctive feel, so be sure to choose a knife that feels most comfortable in your hand. The most used tool in the kitchen requires a personal touch. J.A. Henckels knives represent the finest in cutlery craftsmanship. When you purchase a set of Henckels, you are investing in a lifetime of cutting enjoyment and cooking pleasure. I hope you learned something valuable about each and every one of these knives today, as it was certainly my pleasure to teach you about them. Now remember, stay focused, commit yourself, and practice makes perfect. I'm Jim Shіблер. Take care and good luck.